Welcome to The Next Word. I'm your host, Christine Warnke, and I'm so pleased to have His Excellency Jacques Pitteloud, Ambassador of Switzerland to the United States, who's been in Washington, D.C. since 2019. Ambassador Pitteloud represents the essence of diplomacy in our ever-changing world. From 2010 to 2015, he served as ambassador to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, and the Seychelles. He was also the director of the Swiss Intelligence Agency. Thank you for joining us, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so thrilled to have you because
it's a pleasure.
You've hosted me so many times, and the residents of Washington, D.C. You've been so generous, so generous.
I'm very lucky to have such a residence.
Oh, you are. And as we said before, I guess it's the best job in the world.
It's definitely the best job in the world because representing a country that, has quite a few brilliant aspects to its name in another country that is a friend, and in a country that is a very important friend because we do share both values and strategic interests. It feels good. It feels actually pretty good.
You're perfect. Yeah. Yes, it's a perfect. But let me ask, what led you to become an ambassador? I mean, this isn't something
there was the passion for everything international, and then there was my mother. Because my mother wanted to have a son who would be a diplomat, so she kind of challenged me to go and do this very difficult competition to become a diplomat, and of course I had to obey my mother, so I went.
And you had to go to law school.
And I had been already to law school. I had my PhD in law. I had my PhD in law, and then I went through the competition for the diplomatic service, and they accepted me, and I've been moving in and out of the diplomatic service ever since. Parts in intelligence, parts in serving in the army, and doing a few other things. And I'm totally back to the diplomatic service since 2005.
2005.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But you came in 2019, right before COVID happened, correct?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Tell me some of the challenges after that happened. There must have been some, I mean, as everyone had challenges, obviously, but with your staff, with the resident, with the embassy, and just trying to maintain maintain a workplace environment that you could
I think that my staff, the staff that's still here, will never forget the speech I gave them the moment we decided to close down the embassy and to go into a sequence of two teams, so an A team and B team, so that half the staff would work at home, the other half would work at the embassy. And I told them, guys, frankly, this one we are in for the long haul, probably at least until July. Well, actually, it was until July, but 1.5 years, 1 year later, 1 year later, it went very well. It was a very interesting experience to have to do almost everything virtually, but at the same time, it was also a demonstration that there are many things that you can't do virtually. Because diplomacy is about human contacts.
Right, exactly.
Diplomacy is about creating a kind of a personal link that you will never do through a screen. So we learned a lot, and there is a lot that we do now through Skype or other means of communication, because we realize it's not worth flying, it's not worth for the environment and the money we can. But there are a lot of contacts that you can only have if you've been interacting as humans on an evening where you were not talking business. You might have been talking about arts, about history, about whatever, and then that would be my generation. You have someone in the Rolodex that you can call the day the proverbial problem happens.
No, nothing takes the place of being there. And being nothing.
There was a trend a few years ago. People were saying, with the advent of new technologies, diplomacy will disappear, because it will be possible to solve all the problems with direct interaction between capitals. Well, we have seen in the meantime that this is not possible.
But the challenges that maybe the challenges you faced, because you're dealing with 195 diplomatic missions here. Besides, of course, the challenges that you face with COVID, are there challenges that you face?
For a country the size of Switzerland, which is a small country geographically and demographically 10 million people, we are a mid-sized economic power, we are a scientific superpower, but in a country, in a capital city like Washington, it's about getting the attention of the American side. Everyone is vying for the attention of the. So One way is to be huge. We are not huge. The other way is to be extremely bothersome, like creating a nuclear weapons program, an illegal one, and then we would get Washington's attention. Of course, in our case, it's about again and again and again stressing the importance of both the economic and the scientific cooperation. And there is something special about Switzerland which gives us a very special position, and it's the mandate we have from the United States to be the protecting power of this country in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we are involved in all the, at least in all the official contacts between the two governments, and it also gives us the opportunity to be helpful whenever American citizens are wrongfully detained, and it's about bringing them back. So that gives us an additional attention.
That's huge.
That's huge, yeah. It really helps. We used to also be the protecting power of the United States in Cuba, but now for quite a few years, since I think 1960. And then when President Obama decided to restore the diplomatic relationship, we lost. But we were happy. And as a matter of principle, you're always happy if you can give back the mandate, because it means that the two countries are talking to each other again.
However, some things of recent events have maybe created some new.
Yeah, you know, the recent events have demonstrated once again, from our point of view, that it is very important to have a totally impartial channel that passes the messages between governments. And I won't go further because I would violate the mandate. But just to make sure that governments are speaking to, they have this possibility of speaking to each other, especially when you go into a crisis. It's fundamental to have a sort of a hotline, and we are the hotline between the two countries.
That's amazing. I mean,
it's fun.
It's fun. But I never had no idea. But also, to be fair, you're so generous with your residents, with your staff, with the embassy, in terms of doing things and inviting people and sharing, in food and hospitality, and that's a very big issue.
I think it's one of the really important lessons of diplomacy, which is that hospitality is a fundamental part of diplomacy. And hospitality doesn't mean just standing around with a glass of champagne and feeling important. It's about creating the kind of atmosphere that possibly can even create friendships, and then you create the kind of trust between people that a few days later, when you're not having a cup of champagne, but you are dealing with a very serious problem that could be a threat to the security of the country or whatever, you can talk to each other. And this is something that I'm very, let's say, glad and very, very grateful to my government to give me the means to do this kind of diplomacy. Mind you, it's exhausting.
Oh no, it is. I saw.
Because you have a full day of work.
And then you have a full night,
And then you have a full evening. And that's a lot. So you have to be extremely disciplined in the way you organize your life, because otherwise you wouldn't survive more than a few months.
But you've been so successful at this, and partly because you're so sensitive, to other communities. And I saw that at the recent Black Professionals in International Affairs event that you hosted at the embassy, and the people you gathered, and many ambassadors were there, from the African countries as well as other countries, and you have a very you're very sensitive to to different cultures and to different. Of course, you have to be, because you wouldn't be. I wouldn't be talking to you now.
I do believe that this is one of the central tenets of good diplomacy, which is to be able to shed your national lens, to shed your national vision of how things should be run. And of course, we are doing everything better than the rest of the world. This very provincial attitude that you can find in some of my compatriots too, and that would be, let's be open. Let's try and always find what's amazing in other people's cultures.
Right.
And I've always fared very well with this, trying to love the country I was posted to, which doesn't mean falling prey to the Stockholm syndrome and being just indigenized at a certain point, but it means let's try and understand why these people are the way they are.
Right.
And to me, it was a very interesting experience coming to America, because now I know much better why most Europeans don't understand America, because they see America as a projection of Europe onto the North American continent. And they do not understand that the first pilgrims that set foot in this territory wanted to create something different.
Right.
And our cultures have been diverging ever since. And we might look fairly similar, but we are extremely different. And trying to understand this constant striving of Americans for what they consider to be liberty and freedom is, if you don't understand this, there are many aspects of American society that you will look at with European eyes and say, these guys just don't get it. No, they're just different. You are different. And this is what makes this country so interesting.
And you've been traveling. Have you traveled in your, you have traveled recently.
Of course, there were 2 years of COVID, so
right,
so I've been to 30 out of the 50 states. I would have loved to visit all of them. And I have discovered an incredible diversity, so much beauty, so much culture too. The most amazing museums in places I would not have expected. Right. But on places you never hear about in Europe, or not much about, like Savannah, Georgia.
Really?
You discover Savannah, Georgia, a beautiful city, long history, long culture. Europeans generally know the Grand Canyon, New York, California.
Right.
The usual main touristic attractions. And I've been in so many beautiful places, from Arizona to Maine, from California all the way to Florida. It's an amazing country. It's a beautiful country. And there are cultural differences.
Very much so. I mean, if you look, I don't know if you went to Santa Fe, let's say New Mexico as an example.
New Mexico is one of the few I did manage.
Oh my God!
But I've been a lot to Arizona. I love Arizona.
Yes.
And
I've never been to Arizona.
And Arizona and Maine are two really different parts of the country.
Very different.
And I love both.
Yes. And maybe South Dakota. Can I say South Dakota?
South Dakota. I haven't been to South Dakota.
Okay,
I would have loved to, because I'm quite passionate about the history of the confrontation between the Native Americans and the U.S. and the Spaniards and the French and all the invaders. And of course, South Dakota is a very important place for this history, but I haven't managed.
Yes, you haven't. You have. My father's from there, so I'm sort of prejudiced. But yes, you must do that. So we're going to take a short break shortly, but I do want to ask you, and I want to talk to you about your beautiful wife, Angelique, and how you met, which I know is a very interesting story. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that.
With pleasure, and usually people remember her and not me.
No, that's not. That's not true. You're watching The Next Word. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Those 9 months were also 273 days of planning. What about your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. And let's not forget those barbecues you plan in detail for your family and your more vegetarian by the day best friends. That surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Welcome back to The Next Word. I'm your host, Christine Warnke, and I have the great pleasure of a conversation with the ambassador from Switzerland to the United States, His Excellency Jacques Pitteloud. Ambassador, it's so great to have you here, and thank you again.
Thank you again for having me.
And we have, we've talked about, of course, how you got to this place, how you got to be in such an incredible position as the ambassador from Switzerland. But I know the U.S., United States, and Switzerland have a unique relationship.
We do, because for quite a while we were amongst the few democracies in the world, especially after our revolution of 1847, whilst the rest of Europe was still under authoritarian regimes. We are also sister republics because we share a very common constitutional system, which is very federal, and so the states, or the cantons in the case of Switzerland, are very powerful. And there is also the fact that we have been, and increasingly so, a very important partner, both economically and scientifically, to the United States of America. You look at the fact that a country of 10 million people like Switzerland is the 7th biggest investor in the American economy. And in terms of research and development, which speaks again about the quality of science in Switzerland, we are the 3rd biggest investor. So only Germany and Japan, or Japan and Germany, are bigger than we are, meaning we are bigger than the rest of the world. And this is no accident, because our two economies are extremely complementary. Whenever the US starts a huge project that no one else could realize, like the James Webb Telescope, or you name it, the Mars rover, there will be somewhere a little piece of Swiss technology, of high technology, that makes the whole project even better or even possible. So from the helicopter of the Mars rover to the optics on the James Webb Telescope, you name it, Switzerland will always be there, not as a competition, but as a complement to bigger American projects. And wherever you look right now in the incredible scientific and economic explosion that's taking place in the US, you will find Swiss companies in medtech, optics, optronics, pharmaceuticals, you name it, that are part of this American dream taking place right now. So for me, it was a fascinating moment, and the last 5 years, because our presence has been increasing by the year. Totally. And during my time, and it makes me extremely happy, not proud because it was not my doing, but the US has become our biggest trading partner. For times immemorial, our biggest trading partner was Germany, a huge economy that's much closer. And now, as a country, the US is our main trade partner.
Well, that's incredible.
It says a lot about the quality of the relationship.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm so happy to hear, because no one has this idea. We think of Swiss chocolates. We actually have excellent Swiss chocolates, excellent Swiss cheese, and beautiful Swiss watches. But the fact is that the vast majority of our exports to the US are high-tech. And we have been blessed by a fantastic decision by our government in the 19th century to create 2 of the best technical universities in the world. The one in Zurich and the one in Lausanne, the Polytechnical Institutes, and those are the crown jewels of science in Switzerland, and it makes it possible for us to keep pace with what's happening in the United States. And for our industry, for our researchers, for our scientists, to be in America and speak at eye level. Well, absolutely. And NIH has it's in a unique position because, of course, it is our federal agency, National Institutes of Health, but I'm sure there's many partnerships.
Or there are too many to count. There are too many partnerships to count, and we try and create new partnerships basically as much and as often as possible, because we do believe that the future of the world belongs to those countries who will be able to have an extremely close scientific and economic relationship. The challenges are so huge that no country can solve them alone. We need to have all the countries of goodwill and all the countries that share the same basic values like democracy and and free speech and human rights to work together. And so to be with the US in the same boat and rowing in the same direction is fun.
Absolutely. So how, as an ambassador, how effective can you represent? What would you say to your fellow ambassadors to be effectively representing their own countries?
What I would say to my fellow ambassadors in the US, because it's different, each culture is really different, and you have to adapt to the culture of the country you're in. Something that really struck me in the US is Americans have no time to waste. So if you have a problem to solve, go and speak about the problem. Be specific, speak about the problem, try and find solution. This is a country that's solution oriented. Don't waste too much time with small talk. You can do it if you have a party at the residence, but as soon as it's work, be as specific, as direct as possible, and bring solutions. And this is the way to deal with Americans. There are other cultures where you need to be to have a more, an approach that's maybe a little bit different. Here in this country, this is definitely something that you need to do, and be positive.
Right.
Be positive. This is a positive country.
Right. Well, no, and you are, Thinking back, now going back to something, because you were an ambassador to the African countries, and that's a whole different.
Of course it is.
Approach.
And each one of these African countries had a different culture. And you don't speak to a Rwandese like you would speak to Somali.
Absolutely,
so another world.
Yes, and of course, your beautiful wife, Angelique, is from Rwanda.
She's from Rwanda. She is much more than just a survivor of the genocide of 1994. And she is, for me, the embodiment of the fact that to be successful as a diplomat, whether you a female or a male diplomat, your partner is of the utmost importance, because it's teamwork. Absolutely. It's teamwork, and she has opened so many different avenues of approaches to other people that I would never had access to. And she helped me both in East Africa and here in the US create these contacts. So in this work, your partner is fundamental. Right. Fundamental, yes.
And as you traveled throughout the United States, of course, and she traveled with you.
Of course, quite often she did travel with me. Yes. She has
changes
her activities too, but it changes the dynamics.
And you learn so much more through your, a spouse like your wife,
Of course, the fact is that if you live in a marriage that is multicultural, you have to learn to accept and to love a different way of doing things. And it has brought me to the conclusion that to be a successful diplomat, you need three things. First of all, you need intellectual openness. So curiosity, you have to want to learn, and to learn as much as possible. You can't even imagine how many books I've been reading about American history since I'm here, to try and understand this country. The second thing that you really need are languages, because at some point, you will be able to walk around with an app that will translate any language to you into English or in French or whatever. But having things translated doesn't mean you understand the culture. Right. And the third aspect is love for humanity, love for other humans, and the willingness to love them for what they are, instead of judging everything from your like national lens. Like I'm Swiss. In Switzerland, the trains are always on time. So a country where the trains are not on time is not a serious country. No, maybe they have reasons for the trains not being on time. Maybe there are many things that I can learn from a country where the trains are not on time.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned, on your travels, you liked Savannah, Georgia. What was it about Savannah, Georgia?
It was this incredible mix of a Caribbean culture, French elements, Spanish elements, a very American soul, the sheer beauty of the city. To me, as a European, something extremely exotic.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very, very exotic indeed.
So that's interesting. Going back to this, with your, how you met your wife, and again, you said you met her during the 1994 genocide. Correct? Yeah. She was living though at the time in Switzerland.
No, so she was living in Rwanda in 1994. During the genocide. She survived by an incredible series of lucky moments. And I was in Rwanda. I didn't know her, but I was by accident in Rwanda during the genocide. So after the genocide, I created an NGO that was basically hunting down the war criminals and delivering them to the international justice system. Wow. And in the framework of one of these investigations in 1998, I heard about, this young person who was a survivor of and was living in Switzerland. And I asked her to meet me, and 2 weeks later I proposed.
And 2 weeks later?
2 weeks later, yeah. And it has been 26 years, so it seems to hold.
Oh, 26 years, so I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. She's a wonderful, beautiful human being. In maintaining good relations with other countries, of course, it starts also with maintaining good relations with your fellow ambassadors. Yes. And I know you've said many of them here are incredible, and of course, I always say it's the best and the brightest, that come to this.
I was about to joke, with the notable exception of Switzerland, all the other countries send their best and the brightest. But now seriously, one of the fascinating aspects of Washington is the quality of the people you meet, not just the diplomats. You know, companies send the best lobbyists. Wherever you look, you know, the journalists are the best ones, yes. Because this is still the imperial Rome. So that's where all the best people flock. So I've been meeting colleagues from the diplomatic corps from other countries that, you know, I keep saying when I grow up I want to be with them, or like them. Yes. Yeah.
Well, especially
amazing people.
Amazing, like ambassador from Rwanda.
Yeah, the ambassador from Rwanda, and I could quote a whole series of amazing and amazing women.
That's amazing women.
Great
amazing
women in the diplomatic corps, and I look at them and I look at the way they do their job, and I'm truly impressed.
Oh, yeah,
truly impressed. Yes.
So you'll be having Monday is celebration of the UN celebration of Women in Diplomacy Day.
I know.
Yes, yes. Ambassador, you've been here for 5 years. You've been here for an interesting 5 years, we can say. You know, now that you're looking back over those years, what are your feelings? I mean,
my first feeling it's never boring in Washington D.C. But my second feeling is it is time for someone in this country to start speaking about a positive narrative again, because this country is so much better and so much more successful than all the negative narratives make it to be, and so from you know the left wing to the right wing narratives that are making this country from the den of evil to what, and I look at this country and I'm telling you the American dream is still alive. Come with me out into the state. Look at all the people who are still realizing their American dream in this country. It's about time for someone to come and have an optimistic and a positive outlook, and to stop the very, very, very negative vision, which is getting tiring, frankly.
Yes. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm personally very grateful, so thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. Join us next time for another edition of The Next Word, and have a great day.